Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Crunch. I'm Rebecca, and as you know, this is Patrick. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Hope you all had a good Valentine's Day weekend, and if you abstain, a good weekend. We had a good weekend here, although it's been really chilly, right, Pete? Yeah, it's been really cold, hasn't it? Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of interesting work looking at, like everybody else, right, AI, both in the employee experience and the customer experience space, but specifically around how we think about sort of the old DIY stuff and how we got to that point of FOMO, the fear of missing out, from the fear of missing out to FOMO, the fear of messing up, and now more the platform approach, looking at Agentforce as an example from Salesforce, where people are really able to do things much more quickly than they were with a DIY approach, right, Pete? Yeah, I do a lot of DIY. Really? Yeah, but mostly just outside. I don't think that's what you think it means, P. But anyway, it's interesting because what we're seeing on the platform approach, both from Salesforce and other vendors, is customers really start to look beyond just the CX space, but also the EX space. And how do I use this on the employee experience side? And for those of you that know me, know that I've followed both the kind of HR and employee experience world and the CX and CRM world for a long time. So it's interesting to sort of see these two groups come together and see how folks are thinking about, from the HR perspective, how do I use the data appropriately? How do I think about PII and all of those other issues? And also from the CRM perspective, how do I use that to drive real growth, new opportunity, and personalization, while still making sure that from the data steward perspective, which HR frankly has traditionally always been better at, that we're doing a good job on that side. So with that in mind, I'm delighted to bring our guest today, Bala Subramanian, who is a Senior VP of Product Management at Salesforce. And I'll tell you why he's here in just a minute. Bala, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, it's great to have you here. And I sort of teased a little bit why you're here. Obviously, you've been at Salesforce for a long time.
Yeah, I have been with the company for a little more than 5 years now in various roles. And my most recent role is here in Service Cloud. Super excited to bring all this innovation for both customer service and as well as for employee service, as you mentioned.
Right. But the employee service part, that's really interesting, if we think about sort of where Salesforce has come from. And obviously, I've talked to Salesforce customers for years who have built custom workflows to address those sort of HR service delivery needs, using the platform tools that they already have, because somebody thought, oh, I've got objects and I've got workflow. This works just as easily for a customer as it might for an employee. But maybe you can talk a little bit about sort of the journey that took Salesforce to employee service management and why it's investing in employee experience right now.
Sure thing, Rebecca. And as you rightly mentioned, a lot of our customers have been using the platform, all of the low-code, no-code tools to build those workflows, to build those capabilities for employee service. So I would say right up front that was one of our biggest motivations to invest, is really being inspired by what our customers have already done on the platform. Mm-hmm. But just stepping back a bit, from a market perspective, one of the things that we find is with AI, the nature of work itself is changing. A lot of employees are essentially doing higher order tasks and works, which just raises the bar in terms of the need for collaboration, in terms of the need for running kind of more complex workflows, working with each other, and for the company to engage those employees much more. So that is an opportunity that we actually see that as a tremendous opportunity for Salesforce to really reimagine that employee experience. So Salesforce, as you know, and I think as a lot of people on this call will know, is the number one AI CRM. We have been consistently a leader in customer service technology. We really think we know the customer, better than most other companies. And what we are really looking forward is to bring that technology and, frankly, our strong partnerships with companies like Workday to really get to know the employees better. Now, one of the aspects is our investments in Service Cloud over the last 15 years. A lot of that can be easily used to support employees. So to name a few, Agentforce, which is, as you mentioned up in the call, our most recent innovation, but also self-service portals, the Service Console, Slack, all of the data unification and integrations that we bring with Data Cloud and MuleSoft. So essentially, we want to treat employees like internal customers.
Mhm.
So just touching about Agent Force a bit. So with Agent Force, we really think of that as companies using digital labor or AI agents to power the employee service experience, really helping the employees find answers, complete tasks. Really, again, like I said, focusing the HR teams on higher order and more nuanced tasks. It's really
Mhm.
AI in the flow of work for the employees, and we are transforming our own company around this. So Salesforce itself now makes available to our salespeople like sales agents. There are analytic agents that really help look at numbers and like slice and dice the analytics and provide answers. We have service agents helping our support staff and so on. So we are drinking our own champagne as well. And then touching upon a few other things, I would say is Slack, and I know that we're going to talk maybe a little more about that later, but Slack is just such a powerful collaboration platform, deeply integrated with Salesforce, and really brings together that conversational world with more of like the structured world. I mentioned Data Cloud and MuleSoft. So essentially, we see that companies at this moment are at a place where they are really looking to up level that employee engagement and that employee experience. And to that end, we launched our employee service offering a few months ago in October of last year,
Mhm.
completely built on this platform that I just described. And so that's really the reason why Salesforce, is investing. We see the opportunity, we see all the capabilities in our platform, in our products to meet the moment.
Sure. And I want to go back to some of those technical pieces that you talked about in a minute, but you also mentioned sort of thinking about employees as customers. And it seems like the pendulum sort of swings back and forth on this, right? For a while, we're thinking about employee engagement, and then Jamie Dimon and the rest of the world says, vote with your feet if you don't want to be here. Employees are employees and you work for me, right? Like that sort of thing. How do you think about that context? And how do you think about communicating to the HR leaders of the world the idea of digital employees when they might not be quite as comfortable with it as, say, a sales or marketing buyer might be?
A great question, Rebecca. I think we speak a lot with our customers about this, and really the way that we think about this is it's not so much about remote employees versus in-office employees, field workers versus desk workers, and so on. It's about really providing that employee with a consistent set of tools where they can manage their work in the most efficient and effective way possible, right? And for that, you really need not point solutions, but an array of interconnected capabilities and processes. Now, so that's from I guess, from a tech perspective, but I also want to touch upon, you know, like what are the benefits of really providing this improved employee experience and engagement? So one of the things we find is that there is this notion of a consumerization of IT, right? Because employees are increasingly expecting the same experiences they have as just people outside of the context of the company. They want to use those same things at work. Chat GPT is a great example where we're just so used to like asking questions, getting answers. So really having that same experience at work as well. We also know that engaged employees actually provide better service to customers. So employees that are valued and motivated, they will actually deliver those positive high quality customer interactions. So there's a very direct connection between the employee experience and the customer experience. There's also the notion of operational efficiency, because if you look at industries like, say, retail or hospitality or healthcare, oftentimes the customer is, say, waiting in line or waiting in a queue, and the tools that you're providing to your employees have a very, very direct impact on the perception that the customer has. And so that operational efficiency is also common thread between employee experience and customer experience. And then
Mhm.
last but not the least, companies really want to invest and retain their employees. Turnover is a huge aspect in terms of the negative impact that has on the ability of the company to deliver on its products, to deliver on its customer service. So those are more of the kind of the external aspects, I would say.
Mhm.
So again, to your point, Salesforce's vision is to really help companies treat their employees like customers. And when you kind of double click on that more from a tech perspective, we see a lot of parallels. So, for example, when employees have questions, we want them to go to a place to get answers, much like you would have a customer go to a help portal, right, and
Mhm.
find answers. When they want to search and access information, You want to try to kind of help solve problems for them, just like you help customers, troubleshoot issues with their products and so on. They need to be able to chat with an expert. They need to be able to access these services 24 by 7. And if they cannot solve the problem, they need to be able to log a ticket or log a case. All of these have, perfect parallels with customer service. Now, also thinking about the person on the other side of the interaction, which is, say, an HR advisor or a HR service rep, they actually have the same needs as a customer service rep as well. They want to be able to see all their cases in one place, be able to prioritize and route the cases to the right person, get help from AI tools to help with resolving cases, pull in data from other systems like Workday to really look at the employee 360, run workflows and processes and so on. So this is where we see Agentforce is really transforming the space, because it's really helping the employee, helping the HR agents be more productive, get answers in the flow of work. So that's really our vision, is that we see that there's a direct business benefit to treating employees like customers. And then from a tools and technology perspective, a lot of the same tools almost directly apply to the employee engagement and service process as well.
There's two pieces of Service Cloud that I want to call out, particularly that you've mentioned, but I think are worth mentioning again. The first is the self-service portal. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what you've done to sort of adjust or make that more sort of HCM or employee-centric versus customer-centric. And then sort of customer sentiment analysis and what we're understanding about customer sentiment about our interaction with agents can help us on the agent or the employee experience as well. So maybe we can start with the portal and kind of, for those that don't know the self-service portal, what that looks like and what the sort of special flavor of employee self-service is built into the employee service offering.
Sure thing. So the self-service portal is something that we have had for our customer service solutions for many, many years now. And essentially, you can think of it as serving a few different purposes. I'll talk about the customer service for just a minute, and then I'll kind of connect the dots with the employee service. So on the customer service side of the house, it's really used as a help portal where customers can come in, they can find answers to questions they have about their products, about the services that the companies are providing them. And it also serves the purpose of an account management portal where you can go and look up your account. You can change your address, and you can change your personal information and so on. So there is that aspect as well. And it is also very closely connected to the white glove service experience. So I can chat with someone, I can log a case, I can get help in that way as well. So what we have really done is take those underlying technologies, like this concept of knowledge articles and being able to get answers from knowledge articles, like the concept of a messaging window or a chat window that is available right there in the portal, and then apply that to the employee service experience. So for employee service, what we have is an out-of-the-box self-service portal. And this has a packaged set of workflows for employees. So the first thing they can do is, if they have a question, they can just ask the question right there in the search bar. They will get an answer to the question. They will not get a set of links to click and find the answer on their own. They'll actually get an answer. And there will also be a citation which says what was the source for that answer. So if they want to, they can click and they can learn more. And they have other helpful links as well. So that's just from kind of the very basic perspective of helping answer questions for employees. Then if I'm a new employee, or if, let's say, I'm transitioning into a different role, I get a personalized view of what are the onboarding tasks that I need to do in order to get onboarded, or what are the different sort of transition activities that I need to engage in to step into a new role. So that's, again, something very specific for the employee self-service experience that we have built in. Then we also have the ability for employees to message and chat with a HR service rep. So these could be for more nuanced questions where maybe the policy is a little unclear. For example, there could be a lot of variation in PTO policies or compensation policies across different regions. And if, sometimes the knowledge articles are not entirely up to date. So there's a need to ask somebody to interact with a live person on the other end. And then the last leg of that journey is the employee can log a ticket as well, so that they get help online. And again, in this portal, They can get a summary of all the tickets that they have logged. They can go and see the latest status of those things, and then also kind of follow up, provide additional information, and so forth. So all of this is encapsulated in this employee portal. I will also point out that this is completely configurable. So our customers would come in and add in, components and workflows that are very specific to their business processes. We have a workflow engine that can run any kind of a business process on the portal. So it could be things like, I want to apply for a corporate credit card. That could be a process that is enabled on the portal very easily. And our customers can essentially have a menu or library of these that they can then bring to life on these portals as well.
Okay. So certainly the portal part is a key part of this that's sort of been out there field tested in the customer self-service for a space for a while. But I wanted to talk about sort of the customer experience intelligence and some of the things that you guys are doing around sentiment and understanding the customer's sentiment, not just about their issue, but about the person or the agent or even the digital agent that they may be interacting with when they come into that environment. And I want to ask you to talk about roadmap that you don't want to talk about, but how are you thinking about sort of bringing employee sentiment into analysis into the way that they might interact with a portal or with a virtual HR agent or even a human HR agent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is such a great question. I'll touch upon a little bit. You talked about customer experience intelligence, and this is a great example of where we are using AI to extract intelligence from customer interactions. So in the case of both employee service and customer service, there are so many different interaction points uh, between the organization and their customers and employees. So, for example, there are cases, and the cases have a lot of back and forth in terms of conversation between the employee and the HR agent. There are actually conversation transcripts as well. So, when I'm actually chatting with a HR service rep, I have all of those transcripts available to me. There are also emails. Email is a big source of data as well. So email is another quote unquote channel that we really include in that sentiment analysis. And then also surveys, which represent, I would say, the most structured way of capturing sentiment. So if you think about all these different sources, we think of them as experience signals, right? So these are signals that we are getting from our constituents, whether it's customers or employees. And customer experience intelligence is an offering that we have in the market right now, which is able to look at all of this and then extract two things. The first one is, what are the top contact reasons, right? Are there specific topics or contact reasons which always...
Why are people calling? Why are people going
Exactly.
onto the portal? Why are people reaching out? Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that is like almost the number one thing that you need to know is that, like to take a customer service example, maybe everybody has questions about warranties, right? And that is like a leading indicator that maybe my warranty policy is not very clear. And on the employee service side, it could be a lot of people have question about, when is the bonus payout going to happen or something like that. Maybe that part is not very clear in all of the policies. So that's a great insight right there. But then for each of those contact reasons, we are also able to calculate a sentiment score, a NPS score, and a CSAT score. So that really helps HR service reps understand, what are employees getting most frustrated about in the process? Where do we as a HR organization need to invest more in terms of sources of knowledge, sources of self-help and discovery, or better equip HR advisors and service reps with the right tools so that they can provide more precise answers and more targeted service to these questions that are coming up. So that notion of the closed loop intelligence, where you understand from all of these experience signals, what are the top reasons, where is the sentiment trending negative, and then proactively take action to fix that. And of course, you're going to get new things show up in the next cycle. So that is really the closed loop aspect of it. We have this for customer service, and we are definitely, you mentioned roadmap as part of our roadmap, working on bringing the same experience to employee service as well.
Yeah, I don't have your safe harbor slide to flash up for everyone, so I don't want to get too far in that direction, but I appreciate you answering the question because I think it's interesting, when we think about the employee experience space, so often historically understanding employees' sentiments has been sort of backward-looking surveys that were either self-congratulatory or self-flagellatory. but not really meaningful in a way to sort of drive changes in HR policy practice, that sort of thing. Whereas if you're gathering the sentiment in every employee interaction, you're not just depending on people to self report to be able to really understand what's happening in those interactions. And I know you've sort of made a lot of connections, and you and I, when we've spoken before, have made a lot of interesting connections between employee and customer experience. But this is a very different buyer from sort of Salesforce's traditional champion in sales, marketing, service, commerce, even the CIO's office. How is Salesforce reaching those folks, and how are you thinking about kind of a partner ecosystem strategy to get there, knowing that a lot of the data that you're going to be surfacing is coming from the existing HR stack?
Yeah, no, great question, Rebecca. And we really want to meet the HR audience where they are. Like, that is a big part of how we want to go to market and really talk about our solutions to the HR audience. So one of the very tactical things that you might have seen is our out of home ads. So these are like car wraps, billboards, airport signage, and all of that around the Gartner Imagine conference in Orlando. That was really kind of our first foray to really get the message out there. And I'm happy to say that we'll also be on the expo floor at the HR Tech in September in Vegas this year. So really looking forward to that, and building those connections with the HR teams.
Mm-hmm.
We are also a customer zero of our own software. So Salesforce has deeply implemented all of these products that I talked about earlier for our own HR processes. And then we use Agentforce very deeply in that as well. So we have different agents helping employees. For example, we have an agent to handle like well-being tasks inside of Salesforce. So our own internal HR team is actually our biggest advocate, and you'll see them sharing, our internal success at third-party events, on webinars and blogs and so forth. And the last thing I would say is that uh, at within our Salesforce customer base, we have these Salesforce centers of excellence. So this is essentially, in a large organization, the people responsible for the Salesforce rollouts have created the center of excellence. And what they do is they look at how can we use Salesforce for other opportunities within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So these centers of excellence in our customer base are actually our biggest advocates as well, because they're able to connect with their counterparts in HR and in employee success within their organization, brainstorm on how HR could take advantage of the Salesforce platform, and then really also like highlight the latest innovations in employee service to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually think of our customers as our best advocates as well on this, and we want to really work with like Salesforce champions in these companies and really make those connections with HR as well.
A lot of customers already have Slack integrations into their core HCM, and it may be even the primary interface for employees to interact with their sort of core HR systems. How much are you looking to Slack as a route into this market for Salesforce, or what else do you see Slack kind of bringing to the table?
That's a great question, Rebecca. Thank you for bringing that up. Slack is really central to our employee engagement and employee service strategy. And we know that, and I can say this as an employee at Salesforce as well, employees spend a majority of their day in Slack. So it's a crucial part of our vision. The one thing I want to highlight is that Agentforce agents today, including the employee service agents, those agents are defined centrally, and then they are activated on all the different engagement surfaces. So you don't have to define a separate agent for Slack and a separate one for the portal. It's one agent that shows up both inside of Slack and both inside of the employee portal as well. So that is a great example of how we are really unifying kind of the core Salesforce applications very deeply into Slack. I also want to say that we have a very strong history of connecting Service Cloud and Slack together. So, for example, we introduced the notion of case swarming in Slack for customer service cases a couple of years
Right,
ago.
right.
And we are actually working on bringing that exact same concept in a much more enhanced and in a specifically tuned way for employee service scenarios. So Slack has a concept of a Salesforce channel now, which can take a specific sort of a record in Salesforce and really bring that to life inside of Slack in a channel. And then we are really looking at integrating the notion of case swarming in a tight way with those Salesforce channels. So that's one example. So net, we are working on a whole set of enhancements as part of our roadmap around enhanced workflows and enhanced experiences for employee service in Slack. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot of those announcements come out in our summer 25 release. Our end vision is really a state where employees can completely live in Slack and manage all of their employee workflows if they desire to do so. So everything that we have in the portal will also be available in Slack as a way for the employees to engage and really interact with the company.
So I know we're coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of your time before we go to crunch time, but I have one kind of question out of left field for you. So you mentioned your own internal teams using it for employee wellness. One of the spaces that we've been looking a lot in the HR space is kind of this concept of employee reward, employee benefit beyond the realm of benefit we think about, and employee loyalty, right? Where I might have a loyalty program that, particularly for an hourly or seasonal employee, gives me more perks for being on time, for checking in on my schedule, those kind of things. And I'm curious if you're talking to the marketing team at all, the marketing cloud team, about how do I think about broader customer journeys? How do I think about employee loyalty? How do I think about some of the things like Assault is doing or something like that, or even some of the wellness programs that are more that kind of ongoing campaign, that ongoing interaction with employees rather than just sort of the reactive service?
Absolutely. And Rebecca, I think this is a thread for us, across customer service and employee service as well, which is this notion of proactive service, right? So even in the customer service realm, one of the things we are seeing is that as a lot of the reactive service gets automated by AI and with tools like Agentforce, the service departments are looking at how can we be more proactive in engaging with our stakeholders and to really kind of manage their journey. In the case of customer service, it's like, how do I create lifelong customers? And in the case of employees, a big focus area for us is managing that employee journey through their life as an employee in the organization. And a big part of that is talent development of the employee as well, and having those motivations and those rewards and those perks is a huge way of really indicating to the employee that their work is valued, and then also indicating that the company is investing in them for the future. So in the Salesforce portfolio,
so it's not just the marketing team, it's the SPIF team and the Sales Cloud team as well.
I think it's all of the above, because I think it's really kind of, you mentioned loyalty programs. Salesforce has a loyalty management offering,
Sure.
and we are definitely looking at these kind of use cases as well, which are more employee facing, where we can put the employee on a journey, have that gamification. Trailhead is a great example of that, where we already use that quite a bit with Trailhead statuses and badges. Internally right now, Salesforce is just using that a lot to raise the level of AI literacy across the company and really enabling all the employees on Agentforce. So we really want to focus on things like that to bring that forward to our customers as well.
Great. So really going beyond Service Cloud to bring the other pieces of the platform together and what be able to bear for a broader employee engagement. That's great. We've just got a few minutes left, so I think it's crunch time.
All right.
Patrick, wake up. It's crunch time. Yeah. So we always end the show with a few questions that are not related to technology, but a couple of questions for you. Super quick, Bala. What's your favorite word?
Favorite word? Happiness.
Happiness. It's a good one. Which leads me to my next question. You don't even know what these questions are, which is great. What brings you the most joy?
For me, it's really, the moment where I know that I've made an impact on someone or someone's life. So I see happiness as more like a series of moments as opposed to like a permanent state. So I would say, it's like when you do something and you know that that's had an impact on someone, that brings a moment of joy.
So bringing joy to people brings you joy.
That's correct.
If you could come back in another life as any person or thing, what or whom would you be?
All right. If I could come back in another life. Okay, I think I'm a huge fan of cricket, the sport, not the insect. And
Glad you clarified that. Okay.
so I would come back as my favorite cricketer, who is a person called Sachin Tendulkar. So he
Okay.
is like world famous. Think of him like the Roger Federer of cricket. So yeah, I mean just being there and accomplishing what he did, and he had a lot of joy in doing that as well. That's what I would like.
So 4-day test matches. That's your thing.
Well, I think that the sport has moved on, and now there's a version of it that gets done in about 3 hours.
Oh, well, there you go. Much better. Excellent. Bala, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for joining Patrick and me on The Crunch, and have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thank you.